Esther Muchemi's story does not take one sit down. Maybe two, three, four, five. And this is part two. I hope you took notes from the other one because there's more coming your way. I like that you bring out the idea of growing old and still being proud of the things that you've done by your own standards.
Yes.
But have you thought about succession and what will happen of that, like the transitions, and if you need to step back a bit? Because at the beginning you said things were really tough because you were the sole person. All the decisions were on you, whatever to do. It's me, Esther, yuko wapi, you know. So have you thought about that, and what would that strategy be for you?
Now, thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about that, because legacy is very important. Not only to me, but everybody. Everybody who is in business, etc. I feel sad that I have seen businesses that have grown big and big when their owners were alive, only for them to scatter and become nothing when the owner, usually the man, is no longer there. And there are so many examples around that.
Yeah.
I've also observed that there are people in this country who has managed that transition very well, and I won't mention them because of confidentiality. But there are people who have done it very well. And if you go and study them, they started way, way, way back, bringing their children into the business somehow. So for me, one of the things I did along the line, probably 4 to 5 years down the line, I started thinking about succession. However, let me tell you something. There was a time that was really tested on me. And that's when I lost my husband in 2007. In fact, one of my banks who love me so much, can I put it that way?
Please
because,
do.
because I cannot explain why they were so concerned about me from a really personal level, yet they were corporate. In fact, they organized for me to go and see a lawyer, and they recommended for me a lawyer that I needed to see so that I can have a conversation about inheritance and the trust. I thought they were worried whether I would manage the empire when I am alone.
Yeah.
And I went there. Hey, we sat. We talked with this lawyer. I think that was the lawyer Miller. We talked with the lawyer. But one question he asked me was about my children. He asked me, if you are dead today, who would you leave your children to? Me, I had no answer. Me, I left that office and I never went back because at that point, I didn't have, you see, when you are struggling with so many things, that's a very hard question for somebody to ask you. First of all, you don't want to imagine you can die.
Yeah.
You die and you leave your children with who? So that was a question that I broke my mind, and I said,
No.
Isitaki, do you know breaking your mind against a reality and it is not running away from you, and it is the truth. So 2007, I refused to have that conversation with anybody or with myself. I think it's stupid. I should have had that conversation, but I did it the best way I knew and how I could handle it then. If it was today, now that I know, perhaps I would allowed myself to think about it. I decided I'm not going to force them, because I know if you force them, they are going to reject what you are forcing them into. So for me, I had clarity. I'll indirectly work on their mind, but I will not force them to come in to work with me. My daughter went for her master's degree in UK. They are all UK studied. She went back to UK. When she came back, I'm not even the one who told her she to come into my business. One, because she did a master's in entrepreneurship and marketing. I think she had also matured. So when she came back, she became the general manager of the company. My son also now today, after a journey also, is a strategic director of the company. He is still doing his own things, and I respect that. And I know that as a family, we are still growing our empire. So my children now are part of my organization. Now I am the group CEO, and we, in each of my groups, we have each of my company, I have a neighbor general manager who runs the business independently and reporting to me as the group CEO once in a week or once in a week. Once in a week is a finance manager, or the finance manager must report to me to tell me what is going on. The general managers will report to me as a minimum. Once in a month, we have to meet and strategize for the next month. So from where I sit, I know I'm not dying soon though.
No, you're
and
not.
Neither
No, you're
am
not.
I retiring.
Yes.
Because retirement is a creation of man, by the way.
Yes.
It's a word that was thrown by men. You can do different things, but that is not retiring, if you get what I mean. So I know that my businesses will be able to stand the test of time. One, because I told you, I think we have given a very solid foundation in relation to values, in relation to that we don't chew what we too much at any one time. So even we are very careful on the financial commitment we make on a continuous basis. We don't believe in too much that is not supported by a system and our resources. So holding all things constant, I want to remain to say that again, because you know there can be something that like this COVID that has come. You never know. We never thought about that.
Yes.
And of course, the favor of God, I know that we will stand the test of time.
I believe that too.
Yes.
I mean, where you've come from is a father. Like you've been tested a couple of times.
Absolutely, absolutely,
You have been tested,
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
what was the inspiration behind the book? And now we can. At what point did you ever think I'm going to be an author? One day, I will tell my story through a book.
No, it was never. Never. It was never. However, let me tell you, I was very good in literature. I don't know whether it has a relationship with it or not. I was very good in something we called poetry.
Yes.
English composition. My God, I was good in composition. And sometimes I tell people, even sometimes when you hear like my vocabulary is looking like Nyeri, I was very good in English. So I got a 1 and an A, to be honest. You get what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I don't know whether these things are related. I don't know.
I think they are. I like the way you write because it's very simple to understand.
Yeah.
It's very, it speaks to the person.
Yeah.
I don't need to have a dictionary beside me so that I can understand what you're saying in the book.
And maybe that defines me significantly.
Yes.
I like simplicity. I mean, even as I walk in the streets, I like simplicity. As I meet people, I like simplicity. Because why do we complicate ourselves? What benefit does it have? So my book, remember, I'm in a stage where I have internalized legacy. But to be honest, my pastor, yes, I have a pastor. I worship a religious Baptist church under the anointing of Pastor Wanje. So I could go and visit Pastor Wanje. By the way, it's good for business people to go and talk to their pastors once in a while.
This is a point to note for all business guys who go in there. It's important. Why is it important?
Well, because you must have a connection from a spiritual perspective.
Okay.
It makes you complete. For me, man is not complete if you ignore certain aspects of your life. Mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, your soul. They are all part of the game. So even as an entrepreneur, you need to be complete. So don't leave one aspect of what makes a human being complete. That's my understanding, and that's my perspective. You can challenge it.
It's not today.
You know.
Yeah.
So I could visit my pastor, and every time I visited Pastor Wanje, he would tell me, Esther, I don't believe the knowledge and the wisdom that God has given you is meant to be yours alone. And I could go out and ask myself, I almost felt he was harassing me, because being a man of God, I cannot ignore that statement. I was brought up to respect men of God, and being a Christian, I also have a honorable position for the men of God. So I couldn't ignore that. Then in 2017, I was getting an international award. And those people really looked out for me. I am nominated, but there is no information out there. So they really struggled. For 4 months, they could not confirm who Esther was. And my PR people at that point then told me that, Esther, you need to go into social media so that you start sharing a little about your life and who you are. So I agreed. And in 2017, I put myself in the social media. And my publisher in Uganda, that's why my book is published in Uganda. After following me closely, he told me, Esther, I am not letting you go. What you share with the world, we must put it in a book, and I'm not letting you go. I told him, if you think that there is a book that can come out of what I've been sharing or whatever else you want to get out of me, I allow you to do that. And therefore, that's the way the journey started. So he did a lot of research on me, a lot of statements that I've released, like this interview. If you listen to me for a long time, you will realize that there are certain vocabularies that I use. There are certain ways I construct my sentences. That's why the people who know me, when they read my book, they feel like I'm talking to them. They feel like I am on one-to-one on them, because there's a certain way I communicate. So when he finished the book, I then sat with the manual or transcript for about, I think, a month. And then he came to Kenya. We sat, and the biggest thing I needed to undo was the language. You see what I'm talking about? I needed now to make the book be my book. I needed people to feel me, not the publisher.
Yes.
And when it was done, I then subjected to my sisters. My sisters are very good, very good editors. One is a very good editor. The other one has a bookshop. So my father was a teacher, by the way. Maybe.
I get it.
Yeah, maybe that's why it came now. So, and then oh my God, it was so tough. But eventually we did the book. And one day I sat in my office, and a young man called John he used to worship at JCC. He came to my office, and the reason he came to my office was because he wanted me to be a guest in his launch of a book that was just a week before mine. Yours. Of course, I couldn't be, because I was busy preparing for my launch. And so, just as we were having conversation, and I was sharing with him, and he told me one statement, Esther, one of the noblest things that a human being can do is to write a book. And I'm saying, why? He told me, one, not everybody has something that they can talk or write about. The fact that God has given you something, some value that you can share with people, you should thank God about that. Then he released a warning, and he told me, when you write a book, it's like you divide yourself into two. One, you give it to the public. They can do whatever they want, and being in the media, you understand what I mean. They can do whatever they want with that half. They can abuse it, they can critique it, they can do whatever they want to do with it. Actually, you are left with only one half to manage. And I said, no wonder I am feeling the way I am feeling. Yeah. I need to have clarity that I want to release a half of me into the world, having been a private person for so many years. And at that point, I told myself, and I told my God, if it means that I will release this book for only one person, I'm willing to put my life on the line. I'm willing to take that risk. If my story is going to transform only one person, I am going to do it for that one person. And so for me, I did my book for that one person who will be impacted. And I'm so happy that I have not impacted one, not two, but a lot more. That's why perhaps you have given me this platform. Had I not shared my book, maybe you never have known me. But because of that step I did, today I've been able to talk to so many people, and I can't but tell God, thank you.
Esther is, one of the things I would say, Esther is very authentic as they come. Sometimes when you're having conversation in the boardroom and she releases some statements and you're thinking, wow, how authentic can it get? Of course, one of the things which is known by all of us, and especially for those who are close to her, is her value-based leadership. And as a person, there actually no contradiction between who she is as a person and how she leads her business. For me, that's so comforting, and that's why I chose to work with her, because you want somebody you can trust. What they say is actually what they mean.
In your advice on how one can identify successful opportunities when it comes to entrepreneurship, like let's say if I want to go into the food business, which angle should I know is successful? Should I go catering, or should I go basically coming up with a different dish and selling it to people?
And let me try and explain that using my case study for argument's sake. It is important to also understand what your resources are at that one particular moment. Some people start thinking of businesses of $1 billion. Utatoa 1 billion wapi? I mean, honestly, start with a small kiosk. That kiosk will become a restaurant. That kiosk will become a hotel. That kiosk will become a group of hotels. But many of us are fearful of even starting, oh, that's important, are fearful of even starting where they are at now. Then I then went into the hospitality. When I was growing up, when I was internalizing what I want to be, I knew I wanted to be in telecommunication, I wanted to be in manufacturing, I wanted to be in hospitality. Hospitality I really love because I didn't know whether it's a hospital or a school or whatever it is. You know the word hospitality? Yeah, I thought it was, you know. Today I laugh because I honestly didn't have a full understanding of what it is.
Yes.
I knew I wanted to be in finance. And let me tell you why I wanted to be in finance.
Yes.
Because I had told myself, you cannot be rich and wealthy and you are not playing in the finance sector. That was my logic. That was my common sense. I mean, how stupid it was. But honestly, that was my common sense at that point. So along the way, because I had predetermined what I wanted, the sectors I want to be.
Yes.
Anything that comes my way relating to that, to be honest, I always sit back and say, is it something that I want to touch? And I'll critique it and I'll throw it to my team because it is aligned to what I ever wanted to do. So after 40 Hotel, how was it built? How did it come? Remember, I was in real estate buying plots. Eventually, I came into city center. When I came to city center, I bought it because it was available. To be honest, because it was available and I could afford, thank God. So, but I didn't know what I would do with it. But remember, in my head somewhere, I knew there was hospitality. And
Yes.
so I said, this is a good lad. This is a good place to start my hospitality industry. So I created the hotel because I had a good lad that was fit for it. And let me tell you, today I laugh after 40 Hotel. Oh my God, I enjoy it. It's one of the you know, those businesses that you relate with very well.
Yes.
Oh God, I enjoy it. Then, we have Samchi Credit. Samchi Credit, I was a Shylock at some point.
Wow. Esther.
I was a Shylock at some point.
This is interesting.
I did that, but it made money. but that money gave me no peace. I was feeling like I'm taking advantage of people in trouble to charge them 25% per month, to charge them 30% per month. Oh, my conscience was troubled. So eventually I said bye to it. I said I do not want it, and I forgot it, and I forgot it. Years down the line, I realized I can do this business in a more ethical manner.
Okay.
And so I set up Samshi Credit, which not only gives money to small enterprises, small groups, and we also understand people's businesses. We just don't give money.
Okay.
We are not interested in just making money. If you think that you'll not be able to pay the money, we don't want to give you your money, because we do it sometimes, but it's very bad to auction people. It's very bad. It's not a good feeling. So yes, we do that. Okay. So there is Space International. When I told you I was in UK for 2 years, I did. I lost my husband in UK because we were there for more than 6 months because we had a medical condition. So when I was there, I used to manage my businesses because where I was staying is where my office was. And I came with that idea that when I come back in Kenya, it would be such a nice thing for me to have a place where people can have offices and at the same time be accommodated there. So Space International is somewhere in one of our buildings where the initial idea is to have studios on top and offices in the lower floor. It has not worked exactly that because again, we have responded to Kenyans' need. Kenyans perhaps don't want to live that way, but I still believe that it's such a beautiful way of thinking. So today we have Space International not doing exactly what I thought it would do, but doing something very different. What am I trying to say? That there are various ways and methods that you can utilize and use to allow you to get in various businesses. The most important thing is always remain alert to opportunities. And when you smell or sense an opportunity, put your first foot inside to the extent you can understand it and give it your very best. Because one of the things that make businesses not succeed is when you have an alternative B, an alternative C, you are half-hearted into the business. For me, when I get into one, it's total commitment, and I never go into another business until the first one is on its feet. That's my principle. Yeah, so I hope that has helped.
Tori,
Yeah.
You're good? Good. Thank you so much. There's been so many nuggets of wisdom in this conversation. But do you live by a particular philosophy or mantra that ukiamka, you think about it and it keeps you grounded, keeps you focused on the things that you want to do?
Oh, for me, it's that I need to be true to myself. So even as I walk my journey, all the time, I want to remind myself, I want to remain true to myself. When obstacles come my way, when problems come my way, because there are many, when letdowns come along the way, betrayals come along the way, there is something that keeps me going. I want to remain true to myself. And of course, my faith in God, honesty, has kept me grounded. Because it allows me to see myself as God sees me and not as people see me.
Absolutely.
The fact that God has validated me makes all the difference. It allows me to treat people as God sees them, including my staff. And because of that, I have created an environment whose success is not totally dependent on me, but is dependent on all and everybody that is in my circle. It's because of my banks. It's because of my principals, especially Safaricom. It's because of my creditors, my debtors. That ecosystem is what has made me the success I am today. And nobody should ever ignore that. It is important.
Thank you so much for your time
Yeah.
and for sharing your wisdom with us,
Thank
Esther.
you.
Highly appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you guys did not get anything, please stay focused and stay on your lane. There's no time for bitterness, so there is no time for that. Try to be true to yourself with each and everything that you do. And of course, remember what grounds you and always go back to that. It could be God, it could be your family, whatever it is that grounds you and keeps you true to your path. This has been Icons with the iconic Esther Muchemi. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week on Wednesday. Ciao.
Thank you.
Part 2. We have part take two. We're talking about it's like it didn't just go shua.
You know the word hospitality. Yeah, I thought it was, today I laugh because I honestly didn't have a full understanding of what it is.